that I have a hard time forgiving Disney for.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna cut that out.
Welcome to Beyond the Lift Hill, the podcast where we talk about everything in the world of theme parks.
We're two brothers who live for the thrill and adventure, bringing you reviews and deep dives into the best parks around.
Because every park has a story, and we're here to tell it.
All right, welcome in to another episode of Beyond the Lift Hill. I'm Alex.
I'm Adam from Adam's Adventures. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Adam's Adventures 360.
Not too much. How you been?
I've been well. It's been a week, and here we are to bring everybody in for another podcast.
Yeah. I'm excited to talk about tonight because we've got a trip coming up to Disney later this year, and boy, it seems like every year Lightning Lane changes. There's some sort of change to it. It gets more complicated, hard to follow. So I was hoping, if you're okay with it, that we could talk about Lightning Lanes and just kind of give me a primer or a refresher so that when I go later this year, it's a little bit easier for me to manage. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it started as far back as I can remember, which isn't too far, 7 or 8 years ago. You had Fast Pass, and then Fast
Yeah.
Pass turned into Genie Plus, and
Yep.
then Genie Plus is now turned into Lightning Lane. And now you kind of have a change to, I think, even what it was a few years ago. So now we're doing Lightning Lane Multi Pass, Lightning Lane Single Pass, Lightning
Yeah.
Lane Premier Pass. So not too confusing.
No, did you ever go when it was just Fast Pass and you got it for free? Like you basically with your park ticket you could reserve up to like 7 days in advance of a certain number of rides, and then once you're there you can you know you can kind of do fast passes throughout the day. Like I remember when we went back in 2013, 2014, it was like that. But that's kind of like the good old days, I guess. At this point, I don't ever see them bringing it back. It's just part of a park admission.
Right. Yeah. I had went with my wife in 2019. We had just got married, so we went and had just a free fast pass. You booked 3 rides for each day ahead of time, and then once you would scan into your first ride, you could then book another one, and then just continue on doing that throughout the day. So I
That's
liked
the
it.
best way. Yeah,
Yeah, I liked it like that. And
yeah,
really, with the latest change, it's the way I always look at it. It's kind of like paid fast pass.
yeah. It's
It,
going back to the same structure. Yeah,
right? Yeah, it works very similar. The only difference is now not the only difference, but with the exception of a few small things, it basically feels like what the old fast pass used to feel like. So I enjoy that more.
yeah. I do too. I think that there for a little while, and even now to some degree, it feels like you almost need a degree in Disneyology to get this under control. I mean, like I can't imagine being a first time park visitor and just like trying to understand how you're supposed to do fast, especially when it was Genie Plus. That was when I think it was most confusing, or maybe not. Yeah, a few years ago, whether it was Genie Plus or the other Lightning Lane that they had there for a while. But I don't know. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it just feels like it's so complicated now, or it has been in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, it always feels like just when you get used to the changes, then it changes again.
Yeah, it does. I don't know. It to me, Disney has gotten so expensive that you want to maximize your time there because you're paying so much for this vacation. So hopefully, a video like this will help people out, just so that you can go and feel confident that you bought the Lightning Lane and you can get the most out of it versus buying it and then still not getting that many rides in a day.
Correct. Yeah, and hopefully that's what we can do with this video is it's just we want to do it as kind of a Lightning Lane 101. We won't get into the overcomplicated things, but what we want to
Yeah,
cover here is just enough to give you a good basic working knowledge of how to use Lightning Lane in its most simple form while you're at Disney World.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of hacks and tips and tricks once you've scanned into rides. There's like grace periods that you can get into, all sorts of different things that you could complicate this video with. But yeah, we'll try to keep it simple so that this is like a 101, and then you can go to other videos out there, or maybe we'll make a later video that's going into some of those more advanced topics.
Right. Yeah, this could be the start of a series.
Absolutely. All right. Well, where did you want to start?
Well, so I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of start with what is Lightning Lane. So at its basic, Lightning Lane is Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, Lightning Lane Single Pass, and there's a Lightning Lane Premier Pass. Now, with Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, that pretty much covers 95% of all the rides at Disney World. So we'll jump into Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, and you can see on the screen that for Animal Kingdom, there are no tiers, so you can choose any 3 rides. The ones that I would suggest is to do Kilimanjaro Safari. You would do Navi River Journey. And then, depending on what your preference is, you could either do, well, actually, I take that back. With Animal Kingdom, really your third one would be Expedition Everest. Do note, though, Dinosaur at the top will be closing sometime either before the end of the year or no later than the very end of the year. So if that ride's important to you, you might want to prioritize that.
So, do you think we're going in July, or the end of July? Do you think Dinosaur will still be running in July? I mean, obviously, you have no way of knowing for sure, but if you had to bet money, would you bet that it's still open or closed at that point?
Yeah, so the powers that be at Disney have told everyone, I believe their quote was 2025 is your year to go get that dino. So
Okay,
you should be good.
I've got to get the credit because I've never rode it, and from what I've heard, at least it can be a little scary. So I've been at least some of the videos I've seen, they recommend not taking Frightful with my kids on it.
Right. Yeah. And I have only rode that once, our
Okay.
last trip down there. I don't know. I've heard some people say it's scary as well.
Yeah.
Honestly, for me, it was just kind of it was a little strange. And then too, you said credit. Some people,
Yeah.
is that really a roller coaster? I don't
Oh.
think it's listed as one. But it's borderline. So I kind of look at it as more of just a dark ride.
Compare it to another ride. What's it similar to in terms of like the motion of the ride? I know the theming you might not be able to compare it, but what other ride could someone think of when they're riding that?
Yeah, so as far as Disney, this might be a bad comparison, but just one that stands out is something like Star Tours.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because it's not really, you don't really have, I could be wrong. I might not remember. I don't think you have any drops.
Okay.
If there are drops, somebody correct me. I have only rode it once, but it's definitely not anything like your bigger coasters or even something like Tower of Terror.
Okay. I got you. Well, let's keep going then.
Okay, so next we have Hollywood Studios. And again, looking at the screen, for tier 1, and I don't think I've mentioned this already, but with tier 1, you basically pick one ride, and then you can select any 2 rides from tier 2. Another
Okay.
thing you don't see on the screen, if you don't want to do tier 1, you can just simply select 3 rides from tier 2.
Okay.
But getting back into Hollywood Studios, so for tier 1, you have Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. You have Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith, and that's another ride that's getting ready to go through a change this year. It will actually change theming to the Muppets, so that seems kind of weird. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. And then you also have Slinky Dog Dash. Now, of these 4, definitely pick Slinky Dog first. That'll give you the best chance of success for your day at Hollywood Studios. Tier 2, I won't go through all of them, but basically that list I would pick Tower of Terror and I'm going to say Toy Story Mania. Probably
Okay.
will give you the best chance to catch all the other rides as it gets later in the day.
Now, real quick, for our listeners that are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts that can't see what's on the screen, where's the best place for them to go to find what we're looking at? Is there a place on the Disney website that they can get this, or is this something that you've had to compile yourself to make it easier to digest?
Right. No, it's actually on the Disney World website and it's
Okay.
on the My Disney Experience app as well. It's laid out really good on there. It breaks it down by park and really even has more information than what you'll see on our screen. But we just wanted to put it up this way just to make it simple for you to see and get a general idea of what exactly we're talking about here.
Perfect. Okay. Carry on.
Okay, so next up is Epcot. And again, going back to your screen, for Tier 1, you have Frozen Ever After, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, and Soarin' Around the World. My thinking on this, and not to stray too far away from just talking about Lightning Lane, but if you're familiar with Rope Drop, and if you're not, basically that's where you get to the park early and you try to beat everybody to the first ride. My thinking is really you could do Frozen or you could do Remy's as your tier one selection. But if you rope drop from the International Gateway at the back of Epcot, you will be right there at Remy's. So I would do that as the rope drop ride, and then I
Yep.
would do Frozen as your first selection. Looking at tier two, you have rides like Journey into Imagination with Figment, you have The Seas with Nemo and Friends, you have Spaceship Earth. Really, it doesn't matter what you choose here because Epcot, if it's just not a crazy day and you choose to purchase Lightning Lane, you should be able to get any and all rides that you want to do.
Yep.
But just from a practical standpoint, I would choose either Journey into Imagination with Figment or Mission Space. Just remember with Mission Space, there's two different versions of this ride. You have the green level and the orange level. The green level is less chance of motion sickness. The orange level is you better be able to handle motion.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. Yeah, Epcot to me has always been one of those parks where most of the times that I've been, I've purchased the Lightning Lane and then I've found myself regretting it because I'm basically, looking at rides that have a 15-minute standby, but I'm doing Lightning Lane just to get use out of my pass. So, if you're going in July, like, or spring break or something like that, Epcot to me is one of those that you would get a Lightning Lane for, but I feel like for most days, if you're hurrying at all, you could probably get this done if you have the proper rope drop strategy. Do you agree with that, or kind of think I'm off?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on with that. One thing I'll add is our last trip to Disney World, there was a lot of things where we wanted to make sure that we got on and off rides as quick as possible because, for example, at Epcot, we hadn't really ever had a chance to go all the way through World Showcase and really see everything. So for us, it was about we wanted to get on and off rides as quick as we could and have enough time to just see things throughout the park. So that could also be a scenario where that would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're dilly dallying, and trying to like see everything and get your food in, and you like you go during the food and wine festival, and you want a lot of drinks and snacks and stuff like that, that's going to take a lot of time. So for sure, at that point, if you want to do that and ride rides, then like Lightning Lane's probably a good strategy there.
Correct. Yep. Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to Magic Kingdom, maybe.
Okay. All right. So for Magic Kingdom, and this obviously is your big hitter. So looking at Tier 1, Jungle Cruise, Peter Pan's Flight, Space Mountain, Tiana's Bayou Adventure. My choice here, if you're not, again, talking about rope dropping, if you're not going to rope drop Peter Pan's Flight, you could do that one. Another way of looking at it, you could do Tiana's Bayou Adventure, not to jump too far ahead, but if you're new to Disney, there is something called a virtual queue where you can also try to get access to Tiana's. Also, if you really like that ride, you could do Tiana's as your tier one choice and do the virtual queue to ride it twice. So, all of that said, my choice here would be Peter Pan's Flight. My second choice would be Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
I have a quick question, not to get you too far off track again, but
Yeah,
when I went last year, and this was in September, to do Tiana's Bayou, I did that same thing. I got the virtual queue, and then I also got the lightning lane for it. I noticed that when I went to the virtual queue, um, it was like a walk on, and there were tons of people in line, but like it felt like like a walk on. When I went back with the lightning lane, it took a lot longer to get through the line. Can you explain? Are they the same line that you go through when you get a virtual queue in lightning lane, or are they similar concepts but different actual lines? Because it seemed different to me.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so the virtual queue is basically just what a standby line would be. The lightning lane for the virtual queue is just like a lightning lane for multi-pass, for single pass. Yeah, so basically a virtual queue is the standby line.
Maybe you know what? Maybe I got that wrong. Maybe it was the lightning lane that felt like a walk on, and virtual queue that felt like it took forever. Does that would make more
That's
sense?
probably what it was, yes.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because to me when I went, I thought, oh, virtual queue. I'm gonna get called back, and I'm gonna walk right on. But no, I was like, I'm gonna get called to go stand in a line for an hour.
Correct. Yeah. Another example of that, I think, where you had that happen with Tiana's, I've had that happen with Guardians over at
Yeah.
Epcot. So pretty much every time I do the virtual queue, it's at least 45 minutes all the way up to maybe a little over an hour wait.
Okay.
This last trip was the first time we did Guardians as a Lightning Lane single pass. Again,
Yeah.
not to get too far ahead, we'll talk about that in a minute, but just for this example, we waited maybe 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah, Disney could do a much better job of explaining that, and because to me, it's like you get in a queue and then you're called. It's like your time is now, or like your number's been called. You sort of get the impression that you're going to get on the ride, but you're not. You're going to get in line to get on the ride, and it's just, I think it's pretty confusing
Yeah.
for
I mean, I don't know. We all know that Disney does a real good job of making everything as simple as possible, and you don't really have to plan anything.
Of course, no, no. I mean, shout out Touring Plans. There's a company that has an app called Touring Plans that you can download and put in, like what you want to do in a day. And they do some sort of magic AI calculus behind the scenes, and they'll tell you, like, go here first, then walk over here. And they do it based on like proximity of the rides to each other, the crowd level for that day, some other algorithm stuff, hand wavy, all sorts of things there. But I found that app very, very useful when I went. It's not free, but it definitely takes a lot of the pre-planning out for you so you can just kind of enjoy the park without staring at your phone all day. So shout out Touring Plans if you're interested in that. Check them out too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and it's good to have resources like that. There are some good ones out there. Touring
Yeah.
Plans is definitely one of them. So, getting back to
Yeah.
the tier two selections at Magic Kingdom, you have. I'll just hit kind of the ones that I think you would want to choose at the beginning of the day. So Haunted Mansion would be one that tends to fill up pretty quick and have some longer lines. Pirates of the Caribbean is always popular. Um, yeah, really, those two, as far as your tier two selections go, are probably the ones that you would want to choose first. At Magic Kingdom, there are more rides, obviously, but again, as long as you don't have a bunch of rides go down or it's just not a crazy crowded day, you should be okay to ride, if not everything, at least everything that you want to ride.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's a pretty good overview of multipass, I think.
sure.
Yeah, again, the tier things is confusing a little bit, but let me ask you this: once you scan into the park, do the tiers matter anymore?
Good question. So once you scan into that first selection, there's no tiers. So at
Okay,
that point, you can just whatever ride is available next, or whatever rides you want to try to do to add to your lightning lane selection, then you're free to do that.
so to simplify this for someone who's like myself, tier one is basically to prevent people at home from booking Jungle Cruise, Peter Pan's Flight, and Space Mountain as their first three rides, so that you don't get all those rides unavailable for the first part of the day. And then once people scan in, then they're like, okay, just do what makes sense for you. But this is just to prevent abuse of the system by hoarding those really, really popular rides up front.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Makes sense. All right. Anything else on multi-pass, or should we move on to single pass?
We will go ahead, while we're on multi-pass, we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the pricing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so for multi-pass, it is a different cost each day. One day is not priced the same as the next. Obviously, spring breaks, fall breaks, peak times
Yep.
in the summer, holidays, those days the prices will probably be higher. I have seen, especially at Magic Kingdom, I've seen multi-pass be as expensive as $40 per person per day. On your lighter days, you'll be maybe down in the mid 20 range, maybe low 20 range at Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Magic Kingdom is the most expensive park, so the prices tend to be a little bit lower at each of the other parks, especially Animal Kingdom. It really I'm not for sure. I don't think I've seen
Yeah.
Animal Kingdom go above $30. I have seen it as low as 15 or $16. So just to give everyone kind of an idea of what to expect on pricing.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. Great. Well, let's move on to single pass.
Okay. So for Lightning Lane single pass, and we'll go ahead and put that up on the screen. Okay, so for Animal Kingdom, their single pass ride is Avatar Flight of Passage. Hollywood Studios is Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. Epcot is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. And Magic Kingdom has two single pass rides. It is Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Tron Light Cycle Run.
Now, one thing I'm noticing is that these rides were not on the multi-pass list. Is that an accurate statement?
Correct. Yes. So the only way to ride any ride that's on this single pass list is either stand in the standby line. Obviously, each of these rides tend to have very long wait times, thus the reason that they've put them into a category all to themselves, or you can purchase these as just single lightning lanes. For example, as far as pricing goes for the single passes, they can range higher or lower depending on the day, but typically around $20, give or take a little bit, is kind of what you're looking at there.
Yeah. This is to me one of those cash grabs that I have a hard time forgiving Disney for. I love Disney. Again, I'm going this year, so don't take this as me bashing Disney, but there was an article that I was reading the other day where even folks inside of Disney have started to fear that they're pricing themselves out of even the top tier of the middle class, right? And so something, I don't know, something has to be done about the nickel and diming that's going on at Disney. It just feels excessive to the point where I don't think they have much room to raise prices anymore, which I think is going to start to be a problem for them.
Yeah, and just when you think they don't, then they continue to do so. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to remember at Disney World, you can buy a popcorn bucket for, I don't know, what, $400. I mean, just kidding, but really like $30 for a
Yeah.
popcorn bucket.
Yeah. It's gotten pretty crazy, but yeah, if these rides are important for you, you're either gonna waste half your day in line or you're gonna pay them $20, and they know that, so that's why they're doing it.
Right. Yeah, and just kind of thinking about these rides, if you're going to spend the money, I would recommend Guardians for
Yeah,
sure. If you like coasters, if you're a coaster person, you may, if you don't do well with motion, this ride might be a little bit of a problem for you. But just do like I did. The more you ride it, the more you get used to it. Don't worry if you get sick a few times, you'll be okay. You'll figure it out.
it's true. I mean, some people just think that they get on a ride and they're motion sick. They're like, I can't ride roller coasters. Not true. Like I rode Guardians in 2022, and what was my reaction?
Yeah, pretty much exactly what I just described.
Yeah, I mean, I got off of it and I felt like I was gonna. I mean, I said I'll never do that ride again because I can't handle that stuff. And then fast forward to 3 years later now, it's one of the rides that I'm looking most forward to because I've just done so many different roller coasters now. That last year when I did Guardians, it actually felt kind of tame. I mean, it felt fine. I was able to actually pay attention to the scenery in there, pay attention to more of the ride aspects, So the more you ride these coasters, the easier it gets and the less that you feel sick on it. So you could, if you're able to take like something like a Dramamine or something beforehand, that can help while you build up that tolerance to the coasters.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, Guardians is one of those rides where if you can get to a point to where you can enjoy what you're looking at, even while spinning and twisting around, that ride's phenomenal. It's so
So
cool, just the things that you can see there.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. The moon, when you're, I guess not to spoil too much of the ride, but when you're like circling the moon, that part just blows me away every single time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That and the Earth both.
Yep. Very
Cool.
good. All
Okay.
right. What else about Single Pass?
Okay. Well, I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, there's always more technical things that you could cover, but I think we can leave it right there for
Can
today.
I guess I'm sorry, to one more question I have about it. Can I buy a single pass anytime? Like if it's 8 o'clock at night and the park closes at 10, can I expect to just be able to go in and buy the pass, so I can get that right in before the park closes? Or is that something I need to plan ahead of time and buy maybe even before the park opens? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so and really this would apply to multi-pass and single pass. If you are staying at a Disney resort, you can book all this 7 days ahead of your trip. If you're not staying at a resort and you just have park tickets for the day for multiple days, you can excuse me, you can book your multi-pass and single passes 3 days in advance.
Okay. But so if let's say it's 8 o'clock and Magic Kingdom's closing at 10, can I just log into the app and buy a pass for Tron? And can I pick any time between 8 and 10, or are there only certain slots available that they'll let me buy, and when they sell out, they sell out?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, you could. More days than not, I'm pretty certain that they will have already sold all of those,
Okay.
especially that late in the day. You might have an occasional day where 10, 11 in the morning, you might be able to snag one, but my guess is that's few and far between.
Okay. Sounds good. Sorry, that just popped into my head because I
No,
remember
good,
in
good questions.
September. Yeah, I remember in September when we went, like I was able to buy some the same day, but I couldn't remember if I bought them before the park opened or while I was walking around in the park. I think probably a mixture of both. Cool. Okay, let's move on to virtual queues now.
Interrupting the podcast to bring you some breaking news. Disney has decided that as of February 25th, there will no longer be a virtual queue for Guardians of the Galaxy at Epcot and Tiana's Bayou Adventure at Magic Kingdom. So this means that on February 25th, every ride across the park will have a standby line. Suspect that the virtual queue might come back at some point in the future, but as of now, enjoy being able to queue up for any ride that you'd like. This just goes to show that you can strategize all you want, but Disney is going to always throw you a curveball. All right, back to you, Self.
Okay, yeah, we'll go ahead and touch on virtual queues. So this one, even for Disney, this will be pretty simple. So for virtual queues currently, as of this video, there are two virtual queues. Epcot has Guardians of the Galaxy, and Magic Kingdom has Tiana's. So with the virtual queues, the day of your trip, the day that you're going to the park, whatever it may be, at 7 a.m. on the dot, not 7 o'clock and 2 seconds after, you better be hitting that button, the refresh button, right at 7 o'clock. You can try to snag a virtual queue for either one of these rides. Another option is if you are inside Epcot or Magic Kingdom at 1 p.m., you can try again to get the virtual queue if you did not get it at 7 a.m.
All right, just want to highlight that one more time. So just to make sure I understand it, if I got Guardians of the Galaxy at 7 a.m. when I'm refreshing and I wrote it, uh, I cannot get Guardians of the Galaxy again at 1 p.m. It's only if I missed out on the 7 a.m.
Correct. Yes, you can only do one virtual queue in each park per day. Now, I believe Disney has it now to where if you have Park Hopper, you could do both virtual queues in the same day. But as far as doing multiple virtual queues in the same park, you can only do one time each day.
So if let's say that, you're doing Park Hopper and you plan to go to Magic Kingdom and Epcot in the same day, and you got Tiana's at 7 a.m., but your return time wasn't until after 1 p.m. Do you have to scan into Epcot before they'll let you queue up at 1?
Yeah. So if I'm understanding you right, so let's say
Yeah.
you get a virtual queue for Tiana's and your return time is
Mm.
2 p.m.,
Yep.
but you also want to get one for Guardians over at Epcot. What I would do in that scenario is just park hop over to
Yep.
Epcot by 1 o'clock. That way you're physically there in the park
Okay.
and you can try for that virtual queue, but then you still have enough time to make it back for Tiana's by 3 o'clock over at Magic Kingdom.
Okay. Perfect. That explains it.
Yeah,
Just with
nice, simple, and easy, right?
It is, yeah, because again, this is the simplest of the three, and when you start, it's like anything else. The devil's in the details, right? Like the actual description is easy, but once you start thinking about edge cases and well, what if this happens? What if this it can get pretty complicated, and it's nice to think about those things before you go because thinking about those things in the park takes away from your family time, takes away from you enjoying the actual rides. Because I've found myself in the unfortunate position of being on something like It's a Small World, and like my kids are really enjoying it, but I'm on my phone trying to snag the next lightning lane, and it's just the more you can plan, the easier this goes, and you can be in the moment with your family as opposed to on your phone.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We've all struggled with that. So I definitely know how that can be. I think for me, I'm the crazy person that loves obsessing over booking a ride, strategizing, all that good stuff. But even at that, I still have a part of me that, feels like it's pulling away from family time. So
Yeah.
I wish there was a better way to do it, but man, Disney is so big. There's so many rides. There's so many people each day, for all the backlash that they get for some of the ways that they handle rides,
Yeah.
in theory, I'm really not sure how you could do it any better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's you could simplify it sort of like Universal does and just do the Universal Pass, which is where you can ride everything once, and then they have the Universal Pass Plus where you can ride everything unlimited times. But again, like, does that works for Universal, but like no guarantee that that same sort of pass would work at Disney given the way that they operate rides, given the length of their rides. I'm sure there's a calculus there that they're making about if that would even work or not.
Sure, yeah, and just so happens that's a good segue into our next subject about the last Lightning Lane option, which is Lightning Lane Premier Pass. So, which I've never been to Universal. I plan to go in the near future.
Yeah.
So maybe this would be one where you can tell me if I'm spot on. But it sounds like Lightning Lane Premier Pass, maybe not in pricing, but as far as the way it functions, is very similar to what you were describing with Universal. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Is the Premier Pass one that you can only ride each ride once, or do you get unlimited rides on?
Right. So with Premier Pass at Disney World, it can, well, first of all, let's just say this. Just like with the other lightning lanes for each park, your pricing is going to vary.
Yeah.
It is set up to where with Premier Pass, you can use it one time for each ride in the park each day. And
Okay.
the nice thing about this is you don't have to set up the rides ahead of time. It's
Mm.
just
Just
simply
walk
you
around.
go in and you just scan into each ride as you go. So that's nice. What might not be nice is the price tag that comes along with it, which can range anywhere from 149 at its lowest price to 449 at its highest price. And again, that is per person, per day, and you can only use it for one park. So definitely not the cheapest option, but
Yeah.
if you have the money to throw at that and it makes your day easier, then by all means go for it.
Yeah, if doing everything in the park is important to you, and you're only going to be there for a limited amount of time, like that makes sense. But I can't get over the price of that. That's a tick. I mean, that's more than the ticket to get into the park in
Right.
some cases.
Yeah, I mean, depending on your price point, if you hit one of those 449 days, I mean, even as expensive as Disney is, that's three or maybe even four times,
Yeah,
almost four times the cost of a ticket. So yeah,
yeah,
it's that's a bit steep.
it is. But I'm sure there's a market for it for some people. They're certainly going to take advantage of that. If you just won the lottery, you're a millionaire, or you just really love Disney and you've saved up for a while and you just want that experience of being a VIP, then I suppose that could work
Yeah,
for you.
absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about lightning lanes. We've talked about multi-pass, single pass, premier
Yep.
pass. Do you really need this?
Well, I would guess that you need it depending on when you go, right? It's largely going to depend on when you go because like I said, we went last September to Disney. We got the lightning lanes, but man, I don't think we needed it. Pretty much every day we could have, especially using that touring plans app that I was talking about. Like, I don't think we really needed it, but we're going in July this year, and I think we might need it.
Yeah,
So, what do you think?
yeah, no, you're spot on. So you'll definitely need it in July. My thinking is always if you're going around a major holiday, I would definitely recommend getting it if you're going on school break, spring break, fall break. Definitely would want to have it.
Yeah.
Even then, typically Animal Kingdom is a park that you may not need it.
Hmm.
But with Animal Kingdom, there's so much to see other than the rides that I had mentioned earlier. Sometimes you might want to do the rides just so you can see other things and not spend so
Yeah.
much time on rides. So it could be an option for you there. Other than that, I know they're somewhere out there in the internet world is a calendar that will kind of show you crowd levels. It predicts crowd levels for each day of the year. So I don't have that right off the top of my head, but you can go out there and find that. Just a Google search or anything should help you find that. But just use your best judgment. If you think you need it and you don't mind paying for it, go ahead. But I will say it's one of those once you buy it, you've got it. So it could be useful. You may not need it, but I kind of lean toward if you can put the money toward it, do it. Worst case is you're going to have more time in the parks.
Yeah. My best advice would be like when it comes to Disney and these vacations is like they're expensive as there is, so you definitely want to optimize the time you're there, and you want to optimize again like your ability to be present without worrying, and on certain days if the lightning lane gives you that peace of mind, it's worth it. Um and try not to have regrets if you buy it and you don't need it. It's fine. Like, assuming you're not stretching yourself thin to purchase it, like it's okay. Like you're still getting value, but some days you'll get more value than others. So if you can afford it, buy it, and then you shouldn't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
regret
I
either
mean,
way.
yeah, here's the thing. I'd rather spend $25 on Lightning Lane than 30 on a popcorn bucket.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So a few other things that I would point out. You may, at least in my experience, Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, if you have to pick which parks to purchase Lightning Lanes for, it would definitely be those two parks. Animal
Yeah.
Kingdom, truly, I've purchased it there a few times. I really haven't needed it. It's been more just to save time versus
Yeah.
just being able to do every ride. Epcot, you probably don't need it. I would say if you're around a major holiday at Epcot, maybe go ahead and purchase it just to be on the safe side. But Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, then you for sure, more times than not, you want to go ahead and purchase it for that.
Yeah, and in those major holiday times or spring break or summer break, like let's say that you don't buy the Lightning Lane at Animal Kingdom, that probably would have been $20 to $30. That's $20 to $30 you can use on a single pass to Guardians or Rise or something like that. So yeah, consider that and just you'll just have to use your best judgment because when it comes to Disney, no one can guarantee anything. It's just you're planning for as much as you know, and then when you get there, it's like the old mantra, right? Every plan is perfect until first contact with the enemy, and this is exactly that. It's like you can make the most perfect plan as soon as you scan into the park. Your plan is going to be null and void, and you will need to make adjustments.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll give you a few examples real quick before we move on. So, had a perfect plan for Magic Kingdom one time. Go in, perfect rope drop. Everything's going good. Gonna get right on Peter Pan. It's like 5 minutes, literally. Get right up to the loading station, and the ride goes down.
Yep.
And then we were very fortunate that day. It was actually you guys were with us, and we were
Yep.
very fortunate to have a reservation for Cinderella's Royal Table. And it's
Uh,
like, well, we got to get out of this line because you're definitely not going to miss that
you
reservation.
know.
So, you
Yeah.
know, Yeah. Also, one time I actually we had to be evacuated out of Muppets 3D at Hollywood
Um,
Studios. That's absurd. But anyway,
Oh, shout out to the staff at Cinderella's Royal Table for giving us they gave us something that let us get on a fast pass or lightning lane that we would have missed. So I don't know if you remember that, but
I do.
our breakfast ran long and they said, they either told us just to tell them that we were at Cinderella's Royal Castle and we could get in, or they gave us something. But if you're having breakfast at the Royal Table, at least as it was 2 years ago, and you have a lightning lane reservation that you're gonna miss, ask your waiter or waitress about it, and they likely can make it work. So they want those to be magical experiences. They don't want you to be thinking about missing a lane or anything like that. Just don't worry too much about that if you find yourself in that situation, because I was worried about that and it took away from me enjoying the actual breakfast.
Right. And certainly at that reservation, that's one you definitely want to be able to live in the moment on.
Yes.
In my experience, though, in addition to just that particular dining experience, pretty much any restaurant at Disney, obviously, especially in the parks, if you have to choose between your dining or a ride, definitely do your dining.
Yeah.
That's what you always kind of hear.
Yeah.
So I've never came across a situation where you chose dining and you missed a ride. It seems like they always work it out to where if you're a few minutes late for the ride, you'll be fine.
And Disney has a pretty good grace period, right? I know we were talking about there's tips and tricks and hacks and stuff that you
Right.
can start to use it to your advantage. I don't think we want to get too far into that, but like,
Mhm.
what is the acceptable grace period?
Right. Yeah. So without getting into more of the 201 stuff, so in my experience, the one hard and fast thing is for sure 5 minutes before your scheduled lightning lane time, you can scan into the ride, which may not seem like a lot, but if you're trying to do 20 rides in a day, you say 5 minutes on each ride, that adds up.
That adds up.
As far as how late you can scan in, I don't know that it's actually been confirmed. What I do know is just based on what we've seen on a lot of other social media outlets, I believe up to 119 minutes you should be able to get in. Now, I wouldn't, depend on this. I wouldn't say, oh, I can be an hour late. I can be almost
Yeah.
2 hours late. I wouldn't count on that, but just know that.
Yeah, because it used to be 15 minutes, I believe. And maybe with this new Lightning Lane system that they established for this year, as of the recording, we believe it's that long. But
Right.
Disney could change that at any time. So I would count on 15 minutes. That seems pretty safe, but know that you could get up to 190.
Right. Yeah. Disney changes things all the time, right? That's why we're here. So,
That's what we're hearing. And in 2016 or 2026, we'll probably be making another Lightning Lane 101 with completely different tier lists, completely different rules. I wouldn't shock me in the least.
right. Yeah, absolutely. So here we are in 2025. If you're listening to this in 2027, please come find our new video because this will
Yeah,
be obsolete.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I think one other thing I want to touch on is can you modify your lightning lane choices? So, for example, let's say you're at Magic Kingdom. Um, you get to the park, you do your first ride, and then all of a sudden you think, well, I've seen another ride I want to do. Can I change that second ride? So, to be very clear on this one, you can modify it, you can change it. The one thing you don't want to do in the app, and it's so easy to do. Luckily, I have not had to learn this the hard way, but I know others have. It's so simple to just, when you pull up that second ride and you want to modify it, to just like cancel it because you think,
Yeah.
oh, I want to cancel so I can make another ride. But
Yep.
actually, if you cancel it, you lose that. So then you
Yeah.
only have the next one. So always modify.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
That's such a great tip. Yeah, because then you'd have to wait until you scan into your next ride to get that back, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So any time you risk losing time at Disney World, that's never a good thing.
No. No. Okay. Great tip. Anything else we should talk about?
No, I think that's got all of the 101 stuff, and I know we kind of maybe trailed off a little bit, but when you're talking Disney and you get into all the logistics of this, it's very hard to not run into different scenarios. So it's absolutely mind blowing just how much goes into this. Should it be this confusing? No, Is it
Yeah.
this confusing? Yes, it's the world we live in. We just want to make sure that we're putting good information out there for those of you that are thinking of going to Disney or already having your trip set up to where you
Yeah.
can have the most success possible. So that's
Yeah.
what we're here to do, and that's what I hope we've done in this video.
Yeah, I know we've trailed off a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's our podcast. We can do whatever.
Yeah,
We're definitely going to cut that out. So, okay, well, if nothing else, I think we can wrap it here. It's been almost an hour, which
yeah,
is probably what it takes to describe this. I mean, again, this is a 101 video, and it's taken us almost an hour to describe lightning lanes. So, thanks for doing all the research on this, Adam. I'm
yeah.
sure our viewers will really appreciate it as well.
Hope so.
And let's see. So, like, subscribe. You know this spiel better than I do. Why don't you give that?
Sure. No, just if you enjoyed this video, if you found it useful, give us a thumbs up. That helps YouTube know that what we're putting out there is beneficial. Helps other people see it as well. If you're new here, subscribe so you see all of our future videos. Like Alex said, this one's an hour long. I mean, God help us if we do a 201, you might have to take the day off to watch it. So, there's
That'll be a
that.
course that we monetize for sure. Like that'll be like one of those, master classes that we charge $2.99 for or some crap like that.
Right. I mean, Alex, I think we would have to pay somebody too to watch us all day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, never mind. I won't count on that income. All right, well, cool. Well, thanks again, Adam, and I'll talk to you next week. Let me find that damn button. Where's that at? There it is.